So as Jamie mentioned, get thee to a practitioner. That's the title of the talk today, and I'm going to share it with the other practitioners here at New Thought Philadelphia. And the reason is because practitioners and what practitioners do is so fundamental to this teaching, because at its core, New Thought is a healing practice. And the practitioners are going to be perhaps sharing some stories about work that they've done with clients that have brought about some transformation and healing. We'll get a chance to share stories in a little bit. But I want to go over that. First of all, we are healing teaching, and we always have been, and that's kind of the foundation of this. Um, the original philosophical ideas behind what is now New Thought came from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He wrote The Oversoul and some other essays, and it was all about there is one power and presence that creates everything. And it was very inspiring and uplifting and illuminating and didn't tell anybody how to do it. So 50 years later, a fellow by the name of Phineas Parkhurst Quimby up in New England worked out a technique for what he thought of as mental healing, where he would encounter somebody who had an illness, a disease, an injury, or something, and through the use of his mental faculties, would bring about a transformation, a healing. And the first experience that he had actually was when he was a kid, he had tuberculosis, and he cured himself of tuberculosis, which was a pretty big thing. And there were other examples of people who he worked with and the transformation that got brought about. One of the patients who he healed was Mary Baker Eddy, who became the founder of Christian Science, which is another healing teaching. It's all about healing through prayer. And after that, Christian Science went in a different direction, and New Thought went in the direction that we've gone in. And we've continued to work on the techniques of healing and the practice of healing. And the idea is that you can change your thinking and change your life. And that's a wonderful way of phrasing it. However, changing your thinking is really difficult because the thoughts that we have are the thoughts that we have. What we really mean by that is change your beliefs and change your life. And the quote that we hear, and it's in scripture, is it is done unto you as you believe, or as a man believeth, so it is done unto him. And it is all about our belief. So it's not what I say I want to have happen in my life, and it's not what I'm claiming I want to have happen in my life, and it's not even what I'm what I'm advocating for. The experience of my life is based on the beliefs that I have about what my experience of life is going to be. And sometimes we're aware of what we believe, and sometimes we think we believe one thing, but we actually believe something different. We call those hidden beliefs. And the interesting thing is that it's not what we claim we believe, it's what we actually believe. The hidden beliefs are operative. And they can come from all sorts of places. They can come from things that we erroneously learned when we were younger. There can be stuff that we were taught. It can be stuff that comes from our culture. Everybody believes this has always been true. One of the examples that I use is running a 4-minute mile. It was impossible. Nobody could run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did, and now hundreds and hundreds of people have run a 4-minute mile because the belief changed. He believed he could do it, he did it, and that opened the way for other people to believe that it could be done. And our beliefs are held in our subconscious. So when we're doing our prayer work, when we're doing our practical prayers, our spiritual mind treatments, we are working with our intellect and our mentality, but what we're doing is we are influencing our subconscious beliefs. So what we believe down here, and it's subconscious. That means that we're not conscious of them. It's kind of goes without saying, although I think I needed to say it. So what we believe is in our subconscious below the level of our conscious awareness. And because we're not aware of it, it turns out that there's only one subconscious. There's one intelligence, one law that's responding to everybody's beliefs. And because it's below the level of our individual awareness, we're all sharing it. It is one subconscious. That's the one mind that we're talking about. When I set a new intention, when I do a prayer and move that infinite creative power that's creating something new to create something in my life, it's that subconscious. It's that infinite creative power and presence that's making the change happen. That's when we say that there's one mind, that's what we're talking about. And I do this to set up the conversation about practitioners. Because what a practitioner is somebody who has gone through extensive training to clear their own consciousness, because it's really important to know what our buttons are, what our issues are, because otherwise what happens is if somebody comes to me as a practitioner with an issue and they start telling me about the challenge that they're having in their life, if I haven't cleared through my own issues with that particular aspect of life, I'm going to react to them and respond to them and act as though they have the same issue that I have. So basically what we're going to be doing is praying for ourselves, and ignoring what the client needs. So that's the magic of the first year of practitioner training, is we clear out the debris in our subconscious so we're clear about who it is that we are. And in the second year of practitioner training, we learn how to do prayer for other people. And there's a definite process about being able to get together with somebody, open in prayer, invite them into consciousness, listen to their story, and have the story not be about the drama of the stuff that's going on in their life, but about the beliefs that are behind them. And we get to dive into whatever their beliefs are, hidden beliefs, leftover childhood beliefs, things that they learned from as when they were kids, things that everybody always has known, stuff that are just part of the assumptions, things that are baked in. We look for the awareness of what's going on there and then offer up a new possibility. And then the prayer is for that new possibility unfolding. Working with a practitioner is using that one mind, that one infinite subconscious. But instead of getting to it through our own conscious mind, we get through it through the practitioner's mind. We're renting their consciousness. We are renting their, hiring their conscious awareness, because they don't have our baggage. They don't necessarily have all the same stuff and beliefs about what's possible or not possible that we have. So when we're working with a practitioner, they're not limited by the stuff that we think is possible. They understand that anything is possible, and that's where they're working. So now we get to tell some stories about practitioners, and I'm going to make these as anonymous as possible. It's possible that you'll recognize the people in some of the stories just because these are some things that we've been talking about for a while. There was a fellow, he was my client, and this was quite a while ago, gay, in a committed relationship and living his life and having a good time. And some friends of his, a lesbian couple, wanted to have a baby. And so they came to him and they asked if he would be interested in being the donor for their baby. And he thought, oh, that'd be cool. I had no plans on being a father himself. So he participated in that process. And it worked. And one of the moms became pregnant. And the idea was that they would adopt the baby and he would go have his life and they would go have their life and everything would be fine. And during that time, it just didn't set well with him, because he had never considered the possibility that he could be a father. But now here's this thing, but he's made this commitment because, of what the other couple was doing. And so the prayer work that we did was on this unfolding as love, for this to be an opportunity for love to reveal itself in a more richer, fuller, vibrant way than anybody had previously thought possible. And between the time that we did the prayer and the time that the baby was born, they had come to the realization that they really wanted to have a father there. And so he was invited to not just be part of raising the kid, but they wound up finding a house where both couples and the kid could live together. And they moved in together. And then they had another kid. And life continues to unfold. And they're still together. They're moving into a different house. Still, he with the lesbian couple. The first fetus is going to college next year. And his little brother is doing great as well. And it is an opportunity to do something that completely transcends what he thought was possible. Fast, rewind back to the beginning of the story. Never considered the possibility that any of this could happen, and it is continuing to unfold. So those are the sorts of transformations that can happen. We also have transformations of healing. Of somebody who is facing a surgery where they're told, no, we can't do the surgery because you're not well enough and it's not going to work, and there's the possibility of this. Or One particular client I was working with had actually coded on the table during the same, very similar surgery previously. And so the prayer was not just to be able to have this surgery, as a hip replacement, not just to have this surgery done, um, but to have it go as smoothly as possible with everything fitting together perfectly. And that's exactly what happened. So we left behind all of the doubt and all of the disbelief, open to that new possibility, and it unfolded. So I'm going to ask if any of the practitioners have a story of working with a client that you'd like to share. Just go ahead and unmute and tell the story, because I can keep going forever.
I've got one that I can tell quickly. I was working with a client who was having concerns about a work situation. There was some scheduling and timing and some requirements that could impact her employment. And she was like, it's not gonna, she just couldn't see how all this stuff would fit together in the timeline that she needed. She was telling me the story, and I'm like, it's easy. She's like, oh, what is it? I'm like, well, I have no idea what it is. I just know that it's easy because it's all going to come together with ease and grace. And I just knew that instantly, that it didn't matter. All that stuff didn't matter. And we had the prayer, and the session was over. And a couple of days later, she calls me. You won't believe what happened. I'm like, yeah, I will. And it all worked out perfectly. Everything fell right into place. So, and it was just, I just very distinctly remember going, that's easy. Because I knew it was just like, I saw right through all the stuff just to the truth that it was all going to work out. I knew in my heart, without a doubt, that it was going to work out. So there's one.
Yeah, and that's an example of how it works. I was working with another client who was having financial struggles, and we dove into the story, like what's going on with this? Because um, understand what the financial struggles were, and trying to find a job that could support what she was going to be doing, getting a little bit older, didn't necessarily want to be working for somebody else all the time and running around. Had a very successful career in the advertising business previously, living lots of places and high-level meetings and so forth. And got into the conversation, and while going into her experience, what made the belief system happen, um, she'd been experiencing what she called feast or famine. So things would be fabulous, and there's plenty of money and plenty of resource and all this stuff going on, and then everything would go away, and there'd be struggling and pinching pennies. And her parents, when she was growing up, had been in the real estate business. And when they sold a house, there was plenty. So it was the steak and lobster for dinner. And when they didn't sell a house, then it was maybe tuna noodle casserole for dinner. And that was the way that she grew up. And so my observation was, you're not a failure, because she was feeling like a failure because she kept on running into this financial struggle in her life, and it would seem to be great, and then it would all collapse. She felt like a failure. I said, you're not a failure. You learn feast or famine from your family of origin. That was the model that you learned. You learned perfectly. You are doing an excellent job of executing on a really bad program. So the prayer that we did was for her to adopt a new program and to open to the prosperity and the richness, and that it could be as good as she wanted it to be. And not a few months later, a friend of hers was moving into a different city and said, oh, by the way, I don't have anybody to take over my business. Would you like it? And she said, yeah. And she's not only taken over that business and done well with the business, but it's growing and it's thriving. And because of that change, she's now working on a new model. And those possibilities are open to all of us. So, especially when we can't see it, when we don't know, I'm running the wrong program. We can work with a practitioner, somebody who can come in and say, well, what's really going on? Where are those beliefs coming from? And do we need to keep them? And then do the prayer work to set the intention to invite in a new experience. And then we're off to the races. Any other practitioners have a story that you'd like to share?
I do.
Go ahead, Joe.
So I can tell this from the perspective of needing a practitioner and as well as being a practitioner. Because I think, as I looked at the timeline, I have a feeling that the time that I needed the practitioner set me up to go to practitioner study. So I needed orthopedic surgery in 2016, and as a nurse, I was absolutely terrified. I had enough experiences with orthopedic surgeons that I wasn't too crazy about, and as well as knowing all of the problems that could come up. And I also knew how successful it could be, but for some reason I could not see that. I could only see, I'd rather have open heart surgery than have orthopedic surgery. But at any rate, I did a lot of work on it. I was just a basket case. But I worked with a little bit with Reverend Bill and Reverend Dave when he was with New Thought, and I was able to redirect what I saw. And it reminds me of, when you break a bone, you need to wear a cast, you need to use a walker, you need to lean on something else for a while. And then you don't need it anymore. So I needed to lean on somebody else's sureness and conviction and belief that everything was going to be fine. And I was able to do that. And then I noticed how much easier it is to do the prayer for someone else, because you don't have all that stuff. You don't have that bias. And when I don't recall anything specific that I did with a client as a practitioner. I don't remember specific outcomes, but I do remember how sure I feel when I'm doing that prayer for them or for anyone, that I really feel completely 100% sure that this is love unfolding. This is going to be absolutely fine, because I don't have the limitation that they have. So that's about it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, and I have a bunch of other stories about clients who I've worked with, some of them single sessions. And that's one of the differences between working with a practitioner and working with a therapist is we're going to talk about some of the same stories, but we don't need to understand the detail of the story. We need to understand the belief that was engendered by the story, and then we can work on that. I have a remarkable string of clients who I've worked with and done one session, and then the next time I talk to them, it's like, oh yeah, that's not an issue anymore. That's all taken care of. And it's all sorts of different directions that can go in. One of them, I was multiple sessions that we did. We just decided to do one of those well visit things. And partway through, we came to the realization that this very successful, very effective woman had a belief left over from childhood that she's just a little girl who doesn't deserve any of the good that she's thinking could be hers. Broke free of that, and just, spectacular stuff happens. We've had people who are creating new businesses, people who are dealing with the potential loss of a pet and not knowing how they're going to be able to handle that, and opening up a space for whatever's going to be happening to happen, and for peace of mind to be unfolding as well. See, Jesus has a story. Go ahead, Jesus.
What I consider like a practitioner, something like that, it's like driving 18-wheeler. It's all of us driving an 18-wheeler in our journey of life. And we have some blind spots. So when most of the times, when I'm doing a treatment or when people come to me, I see always put in the prayer clarity, because as a practitioner, you want your client to bring their own solution. I'm just pointing the spots where they could say, before I was blind, now I could see. And it also helps me because when I'm doing the treatment, I treat first for myself. I get that beam out of my eye so I can take out the little speck out of their eyes. And always the next day, they will call me and say, oh, I got it. So that's when I know the prayer worked, because they came with their own solution in that clarity stage. And it takes a prayer because something spiritual, because that's where we live. And a lot of times we're more concerned with our physical, our material, emotional, and feeling needs than our spiritual needs. And we let it go instead of, I would say, speaking with a practitioner. It could be anybody, you know, but speaking with somebody that got that spiritual open concept of things, even of God, for just point, because everybody have them. Everybody have their little blind spot. And that's what Reverend Bill was talking about, the hidden belief. You know, those are hidden beliefs that we have and we don't know it, you know, because even the truth got to be recognized, you know, and a lot of times we want to live in the form of a lie and come into the truth, because that the old saying say, the truth hurts, you know, and sometimes we don't want to know it. We want to deny it, ignore it, but it's there, you know. So like I said, it's always good to deal with today than the sorrows of tomorrow, you know. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. And practitioner training is it's 3 10-week set series. We're going to be starting in the fall if you're interested in doing that. It does not require a commercial driver's license. You don't need to do 16 forward speeds and double clutching. So in a lot of ways, it's easier than some other training could be. And the idea behind here is get thee to a practitioner. If there is anything that you think could be transformational in your life, then contact one of the practitioners. We'll put the contact information into the Zoom chat again. Do a 3-minute miracle. And that's not the full session that I'm talking about. That's like the quick triage, what's going on for me. And in some cases, we're going to say, we need to do some work together. Because in that miracle in a minute session that we do, it's basically you come in and say, this is what I want you to pray for, and we pray. When we do a session, it's like, what's going on for you? What has brought you to this experience of life? And what's the experience you'd rather be having instead? And we have that time and that leisure, that flexibility to dive in and understand what the belief system might have been up until now. What's the experience we want to have instead, and where the change is. And then that becomes the foundation for the prayer. So get thee to a practitioner. Have transformation in your life. Let love unfold, because that is the good that you are deserving right here, right now, and always. So it is.